that I'll shift to GMAT Focus. And one other reason was that verbal weightage came down to 33% from 50%. So there were two major factors. You have verbal weightage coming down and data insights coming. So these were the main reasons. And then I started solving the sample questions that were on mba.com website. They were, I think, free questions. There are 3 to 4 sets that they tell you on how
Mm.
the paper might come. And then I started preparing for GMAT Focus in September second week. So then
Mm.
I purchased official material. Like for data insights, I purchased an official book. Dev Mitra suggested me you can purchase those books. So I started solving them. So it was like really nice. Like they took us from easy to medium to hard questions on the mba.com portal. So so like that, and then I gave my second mock. That was a GMAT Focus mock, and I scored around 690th something. Like in
Mm.
converting to GMAT from GMAT Focus to GMAT, if I convert, so that was, I think, 625. So
Mm.
that was roughly around 680 or something. Uh,
Mm.
then I was like happy, okay, but it was still a 20 point upgrade only. But I knew like even if I study less, I'll secure 680 or 690. So by September end, I was getting around 680 something in mocks. And by October, it was like even if I scored 5 percentile in verbal, and I got 90 percentile in both quant and quant and data sets, it was 650. So even if I mark all the options wrong in verbal, I was getting 650. So so all the it became really easy for me to just so yeah, like my studying efforts really came down. I was studying around 1 to 2 hours, and I was giving mocks. So I was scoring around between 650 to 700 already. My highest
Mm.
mock score touched was 700 in GMAT Focus.
Right.
But most of them were like around 660, 650, 670. So I thought, okay, let's see. Matlab, a threshold reach where I was like, even if 600 came, then that is fine. I just want to get it done with. So like that thing stretched, and then Diwali came, and then I thought, okay, कि November 7th को होना था पहला mock, पहला official, and it stretched to Diwali and all. So then I made a decision, कि, okay, let's give it on 21st November. So I went, and it was, I think, 690 that I scored in converting to GMAT, uh, rough
Right.
GMAT earlier wala. So
Right.
like I
Interesting.
Mm.
Actually, it's interesting how you kind of looked at and eliminated the options. So first is you said that okay, you have a background in LRDI and you had a better percentile in CAT, and you said okay, this makes sense to
Yeah.
you. That was one. Second is you said that verbal has a lesser weightage, and that was your major pain point. So you realized that that could be
More-
the.
Moreover, the time, like earlier GMAT was 3 hour 15 minutes, and this is 2 hour. So obviously, like who wants to go through, that headache of 3 hours. So like, कि हाँ यार, jaldi se let's get done with 2 hours 15 minutes. So they must have thought something. Even GMAT guys,
Hmm,
this is torturous 3 hours. So that was also
right.
one of the reasons to shift.
Right. So another thing people are talking about is also, this having only one break, right, between the sections.
Hmm.
But what was your thought process when you went
Oh,
through
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Because you've taken the classic edition also and the focus also. What was your thought process in that?
So what I thought was like, this is really good, because when I was giving CAT, then there used to be no breaks. Like you get done with quant, verbal, DI, quick, quick, quick. So, but I thought when I was giving GMAT earlier edition that it is really nice. You get 8 minutes break in between. But then what I observed was this was breaking my concentration. Like I used to get up and go to washroom, and but that was breaking my concentration. So uh, but because I didn't practice much on GMAT old edition, I shifted to GMAT Focus. So what I used to do was I started with quant, verbal, and DI. Like I was making sandwich kind of, like I'll start with my good, then bad, then good. So I wanted to end it in a good note. So obviously it was very tiring. To you have to have a great concentration for 2 hour 15 minutes. So I used to generally take break after my second section. That was after verbal. uh, I used to lighten up, used to roam around in my room for that 10 minutes. and used to take a bathroom break. And then when I sit down, it was like, यार अब नहीं हो, मतलब अब नहीं हो पा रहा, मतलब because when you take a break for that 10 minutes, then you're completely out of your exam taking mode. Like that used to happen with me. Like I could not
Hmm.
concentrate on data sets. I was like, it that 45 minutes became really torturous for me. For me, even though I enjoyed doing data insight sets, it was really torturous for me to sit for another 45 minutes after taking a break. So then I changed my strategy. Then I thought, okay, I'll not take a break. I will take a break, but concentrate. I'll sit at my chair. After quant, after verbal, I will begin the break, but I will not get up from my chair. I'll sit down for 2 minutes. I'll count till there were some strategies that were told like count till 30, close your eyes, something like that. Just breathe and stay calm. And so I used to just do those techniques for 2 minutes, breathing, staying calm, and counting till 30, forgetting about everything, and then I begin my DI section. So because once I get up, I didn't want to look back again at the screen. You know,
Right. So your strategy was quant, verbal, and DI. That's
yeah,
how you strategized.
on verbal.
Okay.
And I didn't used to take those 10 minutes break. So because
Right. Right.
just question.
Another question is more on, the multi-source reasoning questions that DI has. What was your approach to that? Because, the classic GMAT also had the same IR, right? The same table analysis, the graphical representation, and the MSR kind of questions. And everybody's talking about MSR being very time consuming, and, you have to really put in a lot of effort to get those. What was your approach to that? And what was your strategy for the MSR kind of questions in the end?
So MSR was generally the fourth question from what I remember. It is generally the fourth question. The first three questions are generally the DS, data sufficiency, graph, and another something, two-part analysis. And then the fourth question is MSR. So what I did at last was I was reading the question and then reading the information for solving the MSR. But like when I gave my GMAT, I just blankly marked those three options and I thought I'll come back later. The review, I'll review it later. Because that was breaking my flow, that was breaking my time
Mm.
strategy. So I thought, okay, I'll come back to it later. First, let me just skip. Let me just tick. Guess mark these three questions, and I'll come back later. And at the end, you really get a lot of time because in the end there are really easy questions. If you see 18th, 19th, and 20th question, they are every time they are really easy. They are must do questions, 18th, 19th, and 20th. And I was getting around roughly around 5 to 7 minutes free time to again go through those three questions. And but when I came back to those three questions, what strategy I was mostly having was read the question first and then read the set.
Mm.
So read the
Mm.
details because the information was really lengthy. It was broken down to three tabs and some complex information. So first read the question and then you get an idea. But yeah, you will eventually have to read those three tabs some point or the other. So yeah, you can't
Right.
skip that. Yeah.
What was your strategy on picking the bookmark questions, picking questions to bookmark, right? Because to review and edit, right? So one was MSR, you picked that. Was there any other strategy that you
Uh,
used to pick what one you want to review and edit?
Another one was the verbal two-part analysis questions. The verbal
Mm.
two-part analysis because the language they were using was really reading in between the lines. So that was time consuming. So if I used to read it once and if the passage was really big for the two-part question, then I understood that this will take time. Then I used to mostly skip that, bookmark that and skip
Mm.
that. And I generally used to leave that question only because most of the times I was getting it wrong because there was too much reading in between the lines and everything. So it was really a time waste. I Most of the time I had to skip it.
So you use this feature only in DI, you didn't use it in verbal or quant.
I use this in verbal and quant also, but like in quant, I was having I went through the 21 questions, and yeah, I use this in quant. It was really helpful because in quant, what happens is if you're stuck at a question, it's better to guess mark at that point of time rather than waste time there and then come back. In verbal also I use this, but verbal I was not able to avail that feature much because my verbal was a little weaker. So I was not able to get the gist of how to use the mark and review. But in quant, what I used to do was I marked for review the question where I was stuck, and I came back and I, gave some time to it if it was demanding some time, and then I used to, get it.
Right. So was not having sentence correction a big relief for you, more from a verbal
Uh,
perspective too?
like I was not able to exactly know whether it was or it wasn't, but yeah, it was again a guess. It was mostly a guesswork, and sometimes my accuracy was good, 70%, 80% in SC, but sometimes it was 40%, 50%. So more or less, yeah, it was in the good direction only. That it was. I was basically happy that the verbal length has came down to 45 minutes uh,
Hmm.
from solving to 36 questions to 23 questions was a big relief.
I
Like
know, I
30.
know.
So yeah,
Right.
that was amazing.
Right. Another question I had is in data DI, right? Because data sufficiency is completely moved to DI. You did you see a lot more verbal apart from the two-part analysis you mentioned you saw the verbal thing? Any difference you saw in the kind of DS questions also in the DI section?
I think from what I have read and from what I have observed also, the DS is now more, number specific and ratios. It's not going into, earlier DS questions were involving whole of maths concepts. Like they could be from geometry also, from probability or statistics, and they can be from any domain. But now it is just, numbers, ratios, and fractions. Like not, they are also not going into much complexity, but it's just the presence of mind that they are asking for, like uh, whether you are able to evaluate both the options clearly or not.
Right.
Just
And more from a fatigue perspective between the two tests, I know this is a longer test.
Hmm.
Edition is a shorter test, but Focus Edition also has three different sections, and you're shifting your strategy across these sections.
Hmm.
More from a mental fatigue perspective, which did you feel Focus Edition was a much better option
Much.
compared to?
Yeah, Focus was like much better. Like it the GMAT older one is tiring. Like it tires you out. Like solving 31 questions in quad, 36 questions in verbal, and then again there's data sufficiency. Like still you cannot get 5 or 10 percentile, right? Like you have to give some efforts. So it was more
Mm,
mentally, and I don't know, it was more draining. The older one, the GMAT Focus is, as the name suggests, GMAT Focus is just focus for 2 hours 15 minutes and get done with it. So I felt that
that's true.
much good, much better.
Right. Anything else that you saw was a stark difference apart from, that we discussed?
Hmm. So I think even the quant questions are now just testing your basic abilities, basic number abilities, and they're also not going into much, conceptual knowledge. They're just testing, like even if I talk about probability and PNC, they're not going into depth key. How much will what will the number of arrangements if we change this? What will be that? They're just testing out basic mathematical ability. So if the concepts are clear and if you have done a lot of practice and timely practice, uh, you have a basic knowledge of 10th level maths, you will be easily able to fare through in quant. And verbal also, I think the RC passages have become shorter. What I think, the number of questions have
Mm,
also gone down. I think it is 3 to 4 averaging. Earlier it could sometimes go to 6, but the passages have become shorter and more precise. They're also not
right,
long passages, so that is good. And yeah, I think overall that change is that I observed in both verbal and quant.
right.
Yeah.
So what was your split between verbal, quant, and DI?
Quant was like score wise or percentile, like I know the
Raw percentile is fine.
percentile was 92nd, 92 in quant, verbal was
Mm,
51, and data insights was 79.
okay, great, great. So yeah, so finally you get to see the score after you click
Yeah.
submit. What was the feeling you had?
I was actually relieved. Like I was expecting this much. I thought ki even if I give my best, I can take it up to 690, 70, 700 score. So what I had expected had happened. And like what I experienced was like I gave total 6 mocks. The all the official mocks I gave, because you cannot now go anywhere. For GMAT Focus, you have to do those only. Uh, that the things that I did in my mock, the same replicated there. When I started giving my GMAT Focus, the origin in test center. So I was thinking this is a new environment. I don't know what will happen, whether I will be able to finish the sections on time or not. But actually, it was even better because there was no distraction now. You could focus only on your screen. At home, there are many distractions. so you can properly focus on your screen, and just for the first time in my life, I was able to do verbal on time in in the exam center. So
Right.
so it was a good experience overall. Like I had expected this, and according to my expectations, my score came. So I was like, okay,
Awesome.
it was good only because I was averaging at 650, 660, 650, and it was 690. So I was like, it's more than enough
Right.
at that
Awesome.
point of time.